Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're here with the High Elves, going to be taking on our cousins, the Wood Elves, so let's get to the army composition. My forces are going to be led by Gilgalion, aka the generic High Elf Prince here on foot, mostly because he has a silver shield, 55% missile block chance, pretty good combat stats too, and weapon strength, definitely a decent combatant on foot. No slouch at all, and of course that missile block chance very key. In terms of the rest of the army, we've got spearmen up front, again, good missile block chance, and then a big old line of archers. Against the Wood Elves, they tend to lack armor in general, so the High Elf archers are very effective here. Decided to cheap out and knock at the Lothern Sea Guard with shields, because I wanted to afford a bolt thrower here, and it would have cost me quite a bit to upgrade them all to the shielded variant. So we've got 4 Lothern Sea Guard protecting the flanks of the archers with 4 units of regular High Elf archers up through the center, 2 Tyrannok chariots. These guys are mostly meant to counter Sisters of Thorn, and of course chariots very good against Wood Elf infantry in general, good at getting on their skirmishers, that is, and so on. But it is worth noting they do magic bow damage, so their ranged attacks are very good at helping to counter Sisters of Thorn. We've got a High Mage here with Tempest and Apotheosis for that healing and flying counter, just in case of forest dragons, things like that. And yeah, 1 unit of Dragon Princes to act as our elite kind of sweeper unit. That's pretty much it for my build. For my opponent here, he's got Orion, who you don't see too often. Orion's actually pretty solid now, especially with his anti-large bonus. He's a very scary melee combatant. Only 30 melee defense and 30 armor, though, means he is pretty squishy. Does have quite a bit of health, and he is unbreakable. The Cloak of Isha also makes him considerably more tanky, but still not the most competitive character. It's hard to be more competitive than the Glady with that Prevanathrema, but nice to see Orion. He's also got 2 units of Way Watchers and some Eternal Guard, no shields, and Wildwood Rangers. He also has the Wardens of Kithral, Wildwood Rangers. These guys do have shields. Rather than having the glaive, of course, they have the spears and shields, similar to an Eternal Guard, but of course they have the better stats and some of the other abilities that the Wildwood Rangers have, so a pretty elite army. He's also got a Branch Wraith with healing, looks like Shield of Thorns for the missile resist, and Penumbral Pendulum, and 2 units of regular Glade Guard, big difference. And there's also, way over here, hidden in the corner, a unit of Wild Riders. So let's get the battle into full gear without further ado. You can see we're going to be taking a skirmish engagement, and despite the fact that the Wood Elves will do much more damage per shot, they're just facing an overwhelming amount of fire here, so it's going to be very inefficient for them to stand and trade. We've got the artillery and all of the archers and Lothern Sea Guard online, so these Way Watchers are going to pull back, although they are going to be trading some fire as they go. They do have a little bit better range, but again, I just have so much higher volume of fire that even though I have taken some losses already on this unit of archers, for example, we're still perfectly fine within cost trading. So yeah, overall going to be pretty solid. Again, the idea here is we just want to counter the missile play of the Wood Elves as much as possible, and 8 skirmishers, infantry skirmishers, is definitely quite a bit to help counter that. So my opponent's hiding behind the hill here, but we're going to push forward and start to use the artillery to shoot at some different things to try and encourage him to come forward. You can see the bolt thrower there opening up some shots. Let's see if it can actually get up and over this slope here, how effective it is at shooting kind of on this back downhill. Looks like quite a few of the shots overshooting, but it actually did make some okay contact there. Didn't take down any unit models, but did a bit of HP damage to the units in his pocket here. But yeah, anytime these Way Watchers are going to come forward, I'm just going to focus fire with all of my archers. Just trade fire here, so, you know, typical Elves having a bow fight, definitely having a great time, and any time that we've got Elves killing Elves is a great time in my book. But you can see Orion trying to do his job, helping to counter skirmish here, and the Way Watchers have definitely done some work. You can see in terms of the numbers, the High Elves the Wood Elves are winning the skirmish engagement by far. But again, we're taking down very high value units where I'm only losing out relatively cheap archers and so on. So I'm perfectly happy to take that trade all day. These Wild Riders are trying to sneak up through the woods here, but my Dragon Princes are actually hidden here in a position where they can't see. They were, I'd imagine, trying to get back on the Seagull Claw Bolt Thrower, but I do see them, and I'm going to countercharge with my Dragon Princess here. Of course, the Wild Riders not getting their charge off. I mean, they would lose this engagement hard anyway, but my opponent does see them and try and pull away there. But my opponent's also committing to a frontline engagement here. You can see we've got the Spearmen kind of bracing these guys. We're going to just unload with the archers into the flank, especially into the Wildwood Rangers that don't have a missile block chance. The regular Wildwood Rangers, they'll just get cut to pieces. Just absolute ribbons by this overwhelming amount of fire from the High Elves. So this in and of itself is a lot of value for my opponent being lost. You can see those Wild Rangers getting routed off almost immediately. That was the idea here, is we didn't really want to take any elite infantry to give in, because the Wood Elves, you know, they can definitely take a very strong infantry game, and just the overall very decent balanced army. I mean, obviously they don't have much armor, and that's their main drawback, but I do think that this matchup is one of the few that the Wood Elves don't have have a disadvantage in. I do think that the High Elves definitely have an advantage here, and this replay is a pretty good example why. Granted, I think that my opponent didn't necessarily have the most competitive build, but these Way Watchers just getting absolutely shredded. We've also got the Chariots in the backline kind of running shop. Granted, they're also soaking a lot of damage as well, but still, if we can shut down these Way Watchers, even few in number as they are, it'll be beneficial, because my archers are having to focus fire on this big old infantry blob of Wood Elves. If my opponent had spread out a little bit, might have gone a little bit better, but a very nice Penumbral Pendulum also cutting down my line of archers there. But at this point, the balance of power is starting to shift, just because we've done so much damage to this main core of Wood Elf infantry here, and you can see my opponent's very aggressively pathing through, trying to get on my archers, and I just keep scooting back, and the spearmen of my army here keep pushing forward and hitting these guys in the back, and as they pull away here, they're going to take free hits, essentially. So you can also see Gilgalion in here, mixing it up with the Azurai. Definitely in for a great time here. The High Elf Prince is a pretty interesting model. I quite like his shield. It looks pretty decent in my opinion, but yeah, I mean, Earthblood being dropped there from the Branch Wraith, it's going to help out somewhat, but at this point the balance power is starting to shift pretty badly. The Bolt Thrower has been focusing on Orion for quite a bit of this, while he's been chucking his spear at various targets. He's done some okay damage. 58 kills overall is not too bad, but still, he's taking a lot of damage as well. And at this point, the Wood Elves just don't quite have enough in the tank to be able to take down what I had here. So what could you do potentially as the Wood Elves to counter a list like this? Well, there's a few different things. I would definitely say you want to bring all of your Eternal Guard with shields for number one, because that's going to negate some of the effectiveness of the missiles that the High Elves are going to bring to the table. Wildwood Rangers seem nice on paper, but again, no missile block chance and very low armor for a pretty expensive unit. They'll also take quite a bit of shock damage from something like this Dragon Prince charge that's just come home here. And so they're decent. The Regiment of Renown one that has a shield in particular could be pretty solid in this matchup, but the regular Wildwood Rangers, I think, are probably a unit that you could leave at home. So in their place, I would say you could drop one of them and pick up the Regiment of Renown Eternal Guard, who are unbreakable. They're pretty much an auto pick in almost any matchup, but you can see Orion getting in here, mixing it up with that Bolt Thrower, man, just continuing to fire. Some other things you could do is maybe just to go wider with infantry, or maybe go with like some Glade Riders, for example. Give you a skirmish cab, flexibility to try and push around on the mobility game, and also can deal some damage at range. Could be tough. I think they would get taken down by this skirmish fire pretty hard, but again, the idea I think would just be to go a bit wider as the Wood Elves and try and cheap out. I would also say definitely the Glady, especially on a horse, is a relatively cheap and very competitive option, so it'll allow you to go a little bit wider in your army that way over Orion. Branch Wraith, totally agree with. A super solid pick in this matchup. But yeah, we'll take a look at a few things in the post-battle screen as well. For now, let's just soak up some more cinematics of the Azurai and the Azur duking it out here, and of course, how fitting that we're fighting over a Druchii stronghold here in the middle of the desert. So we've got all three elf races represented here. How's for that? But these Wild Riders trying to attack these Lothran Seaguard, but man, point blank there, Lothran Seaguard just shooting off and then busting out their spears as Lothran Seaguard do to fight off these Wild Riders. So very fun stuff. At this point, it's mostly just Orion fighting. The majority of the other Wood Elf forces have been broken off. And yeah, it's pretty much just Orion here. The Dragon Prince is just kind of pulled back at this point. Gilgalion himself, though, completely healthy, pushing through. Going to be running in here, smacking around the Branch Wraith a little bit. Eat him. And I noticed the High Elf Prince doesn't actually have the best splash attack, but he'll be able to get a little bit of damage done against the Branch Wraith. And of course, Orion doesn't have much armor, so it doesn't take much for these units to deal damage to him. But come on, Gilgalion, let's get at him. There we go. Just did a little swish there, and anyway, fun stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this battle. Pretty fun battle to play. Like I said, I do think that the High Elves have the advantage in this matchup, and I've been just in general enjoying playing the High Elves quite a bit recently. I think they're a very good faction, decently balanced. I think Alariel's maybe a little bit too strong, but other than that, I think they're a very well balanced faction, and they definitely have some matchups that can still be potentially tough. Chaos is one matchup that is probably the toughest in my opinion for the High Elves. Chaos just in general is amazing right now, but holy cow, there come the Tyrannok Chariots from the side door with the steel chair. Ooh, looks like Orion actually took one down there, but Gilgalion's gonna finish him off. Well played, sir. Well played. In terms of the army breakdown there, yeah, I mean, kills spread all across the board there, as you would expect. The Dragon Princes, though, 103 kills, 3 XP chevrons, definitely came in as a great kind of sweeper tool, swept away those Wild Riders, and then munched through that back line, helped take down quite a few units just through sheer shock damage. You can see where the Wildwood Rangers got home, they were very effective. It's just that, you know, one of these units got shot up completely. The one with the shields did okay, but Eternal Guard, again, you definitely want shields in this matchup just because you're probably going to face a lot of counter skirmish. I think, and another thing too is the one unit of Way Watchers, you keep them play very conservative. You stay well back and out of visibility range, and then play forward a little bit more with your other army, or the other parts of your army rather, and then use the other funds to just get more Glade Guard maybe, and try and counter skirmish that way. It can be tough. You know, like I said, I definitely think that this is one that goes in favor of the High Elves, but let's have a look here. We can kind of theory craft a bit of a list here. I don't necessarily play Wood Elves, so a lot. I do play them occasionally, so don't take any of this as gospel, but this is just my impressions of this matchup. You want to probably take the lady here. I'd cut the rest of those abilities, just take Prey of Anathrema. This one could be decent. 6% damage resistance is actually not too bad, but we'll see if we have the spend for that towards the end here. We definitely want to grab a Branch Wraith, and I like his abilities, except for Foe Seeker, I'll usually cut just for extra cost. Penumbral Pendulum and Earthblood are the two spells I'm going to take there. And then we'll grab some Eternal Guards with shields. We'll grab the Regiment of Renown, Winterheart Guard, Wardens of Kithral. Again, shielded unit, going to be very effective. And then from here we can go a number of different ways. Treekin, if your opponent actually doesn't bring a lot of armor piercing or flaming damage units, Treekin can actually be a really good option here. Just because they have pretty decent melee defense. They'll take a while to cut through, and they give you a nice kind of anchor. They're not going to dish out a lot of damage, especially against the high melee defense of the Elves. The High Elves, that is. But still, if your opponent doesn't bring the tools to deal with them, they can be very tough to kill, and that in and of itself could be beneficial. If you're worried about fire damage, you could always grab the Firebark Elders as well. They'll give you that resistance to fire, so the Firebark Elders might even be a decent pick regardless, just to give you that resistance to fire area of effect, because it actually has been changed from Game 1 to Game 2. It now actually gives straight up flame resistance, so it can benefit elf units as well, so it might even be worthwhile taking just to kind of help protect your front line in case of Fireborn or Dragon, because the High Elves do have some options for flaming damage, or even Sisters of Avalorn, for example, also deal fire damage. So from here, some different possibilities. One unit of Way Watchers probably not a bad idea, and maybe we want to grab just a lot of Glade Guard here just to try and, it can be tough, but we can maybe outshoot them. Maybe we can try and go pretty wide in the skirmish game as well, maybe get some Glade Riders here. We're just a little bit off from affording one more Glade Rider, so I might see if I can cut some costs here. Blessing of the Ancients, if you're on a wooded map, a map without any trees, you want to cut that. If you're on a wooded map, you definitely want to bring it, but may even be just worth cutting something else like Smoke and Mirrors, or, you know, something else small. This Call of the Woods, again, is pretty solid, that +5 melee attack, especially against the High Elves when you're trying to get through the martial prowess. So maybe I would cut Smoke and Mirrors, although, again, 12% speed can be pretty solid here, and that would allow us to get one other unit of Glade Riders. And yeah, something like this I think could be pretty solid. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below, though. Again, I'm certainly no expert in this matchup, but I would be very interested to hear your guys' thoughts if you do have any experience from the High Elf, or sorry, from the Wood Elf side of this matchup. What your thoughts are on the army I built here, and just generally, you know, in general, I try and apply the concepts that I would say use with other factions to the Wood Elves, which is against the High Elves, bring a lot of shields if you can, and bring just a lot of troops. Try and swarm and win on the numbers game, which for the Wood Elves can be hard because they're, again, also elves. Units are relatively expensive across the board, so let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below, though. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.